and welcome to this episode of the Music City Mindset. We are located conveniently under the NFM Podcast Network. So all platforms, Nashville Fit, you can find us sitting here talking, and we've got a really good one today. I'm very excited about this. But part of the reason why I'm excited, I'm kind of been in my feels all weekend. We'll get into that because I'm not alone. We've got a co-host here. He's a husband. He's a father. Glencliff legend, TSU icon. Didn't even know it. He's decked out in TSU gear today. And you can train with him if you hit him up at Training Corner on Instagram, Deon Giddens.
Man, I appreciate it, man. This dude, I don't know what to say. A gold medal, I guess, for the intro. Thanks for the gold medal intro. I appreciate it.
So I kind of overheard, wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but I overheard you on the phone earlier.
Yeah.
Which leads right into some questions I was wanting to ask you.
Mm-hmm.
With getting to know you a little bit more through all this whole process and seeing kind of behind the scenes and seeing how you work, I at the gym, we celebrated Music City Muscle being open 2 years.
Man, congratulations on that, man. Yeah, that's a big deal.
But realizing that, like, in college, for a project, I said I wanted to be a gym owner. Like, money, no object, whatever, I was still going to be a gym owner. But even up to like 3 years ago, if you asked me in the moment, I wouldn't say that I was putting down the foundation to become a gym owner.
Okay.
And then now here I am celebrating 2 years of being a gym owner. But it's kind of realizing that, like, staying the course of chasing what made me happy in the industry that did that, I actually was laying the groundwork down to be able to do what I'm doing now. So looking at your business, how much of what you're doing is like actually setting goals? I mean, you and I are different,
right?
You know, with the brick and mortar versus what you do with coaching and things like that. So how do you go about like setting goals and feeling like you're still continuing to achieve success on the more like day-to-day, short-term kind of stuff?
Oh man, well, you know, the brick, I had the brick and mortar, right? So when I came out, that was the goal, to do the brick and mortar. So when I did that back in 2012, I was in the brick and mortar from 2012 to 2019. You know, some things happened. I signed a deal with Mookie to do a gym from, I think, maybe mid-year, so June to July 2019. Shortly after that, we ran into COVID.
Yeah.
So that kind of went downhill from there. But with that being said, like, you had to make a pivot like everybody else did at that time.
Exactly.
But didn't realize not having that brick and mortar to call my own was kind of preparing me for what I'm doing now, to your point, right?
Exactly.
So you just got to understand, man, like, it's no one who's successful has had a clean ride. Right. I haven't heard of one.
Yeah.
And if I did, they probably lying to you, right? You know what I mean? So,
for sure.
You got to understand it's just ups and downs to everything. The only thing that I feel like is separating me or for yourself for 2 years, because some people started and they can't stay open.
Right.
Right? Just to being consistent and never giving up at the end of the day. So don't give up.
Yeah.
The day-to-day goals, just knowing, hey, this is what I'm going, I'm going to attack it, right? So for me right now, I know I just got into coaching 3 years ago. Turned down every coaching job that ever was offered to me up until 3 years ago. And, you know, God has had it timed out to where now the coaching has brought on more clients. You know what I mean, from what I do. So it's one of those things, man, it's like a two-way go. But the main thing is always the main thing for me, and that's just to always expand and do something different each year. So that's been my goal now without the brick and mortar. You know, I'm just kind of working on something right now to kind of change that, to get back to where I started in the brick and mortar, and also keeping this stuff available and open to, you know, kind of be flexible the way I am now. But day-to-day, man, is always knowing, setting goals. Just try to be better than what you were day-to-day, and then also you can take that from year to year. So expand something new. That's what I've been doing.
I feel like we're in a world where everyone wants to be an entrepreneur.
It's tough.
And yeah, it is. And because I feel like in the short term, it seems real sexy to want to do that, self-proclaimed, all of those things. But there's not that corporate ladder structure of like, okay, now I'm an entrepreneur. Like, what do I do now?
Right. Who is going to motivate me? Right. What's the next step?
Yeah.
Where do I branch out from here? Any partnerships, any deals? So, I think that came from just the vision I had as I spoke on, you know, on the podcast earlier. even on the one with Jarrell and Sav, I spoke about it maybe last year or two. Just the vision I had for just what my training looked like, right? So I always wanted to bring people with me. I always wanted to make sure in the beginning, like I created a platform and wanted to put more people in just like me who maybe didn't have, because I didn't come from there, right? I didn't come from, you know, hey, I want to start off being a trainer. I'm going to start doing it. Nah, I finished my football career and I always had a knack for it, but I just did it.
Yeah.
Nobody showed me the ropes. So I had a lot of lessons learned just kind of going through the ring on my own. But I wanted to create that platform for people to come in who already had something. Like, you know what? I have this already. I'm doing it. I just need a space to do it in. And I always open up my doors for people like that. So that's kind of what I wanted to do. So that always was big for me as far as creating a platform and making the next step. But it comes down to what you want, right? So do you want to expand? Do you want to franchise your gym, right? That's something you got to think about. That's something that can be on the table for you. Do you want to do one in Clarksville? You want one out of state? I mean, it's not far-fetched if you want it.
No,
but
it's not.
That's something that you just got to understand and know.
The conversations are happening, which is why
That's what
it's
I'm
kind of on
saying.
the forefront of my brain.
Yeah, I mean,
so I'm kind of using this platform to kind of like talk to other people, being like,
nah, man, it's one of those things where you just got to figure out what works best, right? It has to make sense. But at the end of the day, man, like if you can expand, why not?
Yeah.
Why not? If it makes sense. Has to make sense, though.
I think the key thing you said there was vision.
It's the vision, man.
The vision of what you want and what you're taking on either for yourself versus what you're doing for someone else. As someone who started as a personal trainer making $15 an hour when the YMCA was charging whatever they're charging.
And guess what, though? To your point, that's why I went straight to my own. I didn't work in the gym, right?
Oh, for real?
Nah.
Yeah.
So I ended up being in, I was working out of community center first. But I was still working at the time. So when I came back from football, I had a job and I worked and did training as well. But I started getting so much money from this training because I had a corporate account. That's like one of the first things I had.
Yeah.
That ventured off, and then I just opened up my own because I had people coming in saying, you know what, man, I'm doing these classes and I'm getting paid nothing.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, you come to me, I'll pay you double of that, and I'll help you get what you get off of every person coming
my
in.
first fitness anything was actually water walking, working with silver sneakers.
So yeah.
But there was a vision.
The vision though,
There was a vision, and you got to kind of go through your own journey to figure out how to execute that vision.
A must. And you're gonna make some mistakes, right? So I tell
exactly.
people, and just give yourself some grace.
Yeah, and that kind of journey is a good segue to talk about the guest we have with us here and the journey to get to the vision. This is going to be a fun one here. The person sitting on this couch with me, he was a part of putting Chicago on the map as a food city, where he tamed a Bib Gourmand. Did I say that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, okay. From the Michelin Guide.
You practiced that.
Yeah, I did. I ain't gonna lie. I practiced that. There's some things I didn't write down because I'm like, I'm gonna fuck that up. He also attained Best New Chef and Best Dish. He's worked with the famous Thomas Teller at the French Laundry. He's ran kitchens of some of the best restaurants all over the world, from Spain, Japan, Australia. As the chef here in Nashville at Catbird Seed, he was awarded the Best Dining Experience. He's now the owner of IGGY's restaurant in the Wedgwood, Houston area, and the biggest fish band fan that I know, Mr. Chef Ryan Poli.
Oh, thank you. What an intro. Wow.
I told you he's great, man.
Wow.
This dude I need to come eat with you, man.
Yeah.
Oh, it's good.
I know. I need to come.
Yeah. Ryan.
Hello.
Where are you from originally? What part? Obviously, Chicago. Is
south side of Chicago, man.
South
South
side.
side.
Yeah, south side.
So what was it like for you growing up in the south side of Chicago? And like as a kid, is there like some memorable things when you look back on it? Was like the food that like kind of facilitates that memory of like what food meant to you back then?
No, not at all. No.
No deep dish pizza.
No, absolutely not. I did not grow up. I worked in Europe a lot, and you'd be working with these guys from France, or they grew up in the countryside of France, or my friends in Denmark, and they grew up eating some crusty crunchy bread and a piece of duck pate for lunch, and that's what they would bring to school. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? I grew up eating Sbarro at the mall.
Yeah,
you know?
right,
Like
right.
I grew up eating casseroles. So there was no food culture
Yeah.
of me growing up. You're like, wow, my parents were phenomenal cooks, and it inspired me to live that dream. It was almost like kind of fell into it backwards, and then once I started cooking, there was a curiosity to be like, oh, this is so much better than what I was eating growing up. Like I need to like explore this more because there's this whole world of food besides the 7 or 8 dishes that my parents knew how to make. So
How did
in their defense, we always sat down for dinner.
Yeah.
At 5 o'clock, you had to be there.
Which is great, though. I love it.
Yeah, no
I feel like it's
baseball
missing-
hat. You couldn't wear a baseball hat.
Nah.
The TV was off. We would sit there.
Yeah.
We would talk to each other
Yeah.
about our days.
I kind of missed that.
My parents did that,
Yeah.
though.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
we
Like,
did that.
my-
I mean,
my-
it might have been some hamburger helper or something.
It didn't
It
matter
don't
what
though,
it
right?
was.
Yeah,
It didn't matter what it was.
We did that. We sat
Yeah.
down, and I was always the last one eating, so they would all get up, clean up. I'm still at
Yeah.
the table eating, but
Still eating.
that it brings back memories just hearing you say that, though.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think people do that anymore.
No,
Right,
I
they
don't. I
don't.
don't think so
Yeah.
at all.
No.
And like, even if it's not 5-star Michelin level food still brings people together,
Right.
even if it's pizza, from a box.
Mm-hmm.
So when did you first get into food? What was your first like food work? Like, what made you fall in love with food?
Great question. I don't think I fell in love with food. I think I fell in love with the lifestyle of working in a restaurant. Because your whole life growing up in high school, you got to go to college, you got to get a degree, you got to do the 9 to 5, you got to wear a tie. And I'm like, just sitting in commuter traffic at 8:30 in the morning, listening to AM radio. I was just like, I want to fucking kill myself, man. So in high school, I started working at a restaurant that was like down the street.
Yeah. What kind of restaurant?
It was like a dinner theater playhouse. So they would have So it was almost like a catering thing. They would have these plays. It was a theater.
Yeah.
So they'd have these plays, and like 500 people would sit down all at once, and they would you had a choice between like fish, beef, pork, chicken, and you would the menu would be there, and almost like a wedding.
I mean, that's what it
scenario.
sounds like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sound like
You got a
wedding,
list, you
and
pick
you'd
what
get the
you
list
want.
be like, I'll have the chicken, and you're these big banquet tables, and the servers would come back, and it was a big hotline with everything was in a steam table, and we would pump out like 500 people in like an hour and 10 minutes. Like it had to be fast because the show was starting, So the servers would come by, and they would have like 4 tables of 25 people, and they would just be like, I need 8 beef, I need 7 salmon, and then we would plate it all up real fast and put it in the window, and they would take it and they would run it out. So it was like a lot of like volume cooking and like steam table
Dude,
cooking.
that's like learning
And
on
I
the
was
fly.
like-
That's learning on the
I was
fly
like,
for
holy
real.
shit! Like,
Yeah.
So it's like I learned how to make rice for 150 people before I learned how to make rice for 2.
Yeah.
And it was like that's like every chef's problem is like it's impossible to cook for 2 people.
Right.
I hear that a
Anytime-
lot, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anytime I make
Yeah.
pasta, it's like I cook the whole box of pasta, no matter if I'm just eating it or I don't know. So that was my first experience. But the experience that I got was, I'd start work at 3 in the afternoon and I'd come home at 12:30 at night. I'd
Yeah.
be like, this is fucking great. Sleep all day.
Yeah.
Like smoke weed all day, sleep
Oh,
all
yeah.
day, come home,
Yeah.
and like it was kind of the thing where my parents didn't really understand it, so they couldn't really like offer opinions on what I should do or how I should do it.
Right.
It was just like, it was up to me. And I had really great mentors along the way, and I just kind of like worked at that place, and I went to like a country club for a while, and then I went to like a downtown restaurant experience, and I just had really great people putting me on a road to be like, if you want to be good at this industry, this is what you need to do. You need to work with the best chefs. You need to travel to Europe, and I just kind of like followed that map all the way through.
Yeah. So talking like we were talking about in the beginning with the vision, was you leaving that kind of place to go to the downtown restaurant and stuff like that? Was that all like in your mind, knowing I'm gonna own my own restaurant one day? And at what point did you start like changing how you were acting and navigating your career, knowing that like, okay, this is the vision?
Yeah, complicated answer. I think when you're 18 years old, you might set lofty goals.
Yeah.
I don't know if the goal was to own my own restaurant. I think it was just something I'd said, like, oh, one day I want to own it. I didn't know anything what that was.
Yeah.
You know, I was still learning how to cook. And then as time goes on, you work at better places, you work for better chefs, and that goal becomes a little bit more refined. Mm-hmm. But then there's all kinds of shiny objects and side missions that get you off of that goal, such as life.
Yeah.
So the goal was, I want to own my own restaurant, not really understanding what that meant. But a restaurant group that has 6 or 7 restaurants comes along and offers you a lot of money and says you can manage all these restaurants and you could do all these things. And I'm like, okay, well, that sounds like a career path. And then you get into that, and it's slowly diminishing the goal that I had at this 18-year-old kid of just wanting to be like a really great chef. And now I'm like, it took me an hour to write the schedule. I'm pushing numbers. I'm just doing food costs. I'm not really cooking anymore.
The business side.
Not even the business side, just like an administrative
admin
role.
work. Yeah.
Yeah, and I had like partners that were like dictating what was on the menu, and I was just like, this doesn't seem right anymore. So then you pull everything back and you scrap it all down, and then you start over again, and you just start working towards that goal. And eventually, the smarter you get, the more you understand the industry, the more you understand business, the goal of owning your own restaurant becomes very tangible, and you have the blueprint of how to make that happen.
Mm. Wow. So at what point, like, what was your mindset? Because, I mean, you've gone all over the world working for other people, learning, dialing in your craft. What was the mindset of, like, leaving the States and doing all that? How hard of a decision was that? And did you feel like support from your, family, friends, whatever, when you were choosing to do that?
The mindset was go and work for the best people you could possibly work for wherever they are. I sought out the top 0.01% best of the world.
That's what I was about to ask. Like, so what is that process alone?
Yeah,
like you getting turned down, or like what is it? Like, what do you do?
So,
like, you know what I mean?
What year frame was this?
So I worked at the French Laundry in Napa Valley, California, which still is considered one of the best restaurants in the world. Mm-hmm. The bistro I worked in Chicago kind of set me up to work at this French restaurant in Chicago that set me up to work. Everything was like a stepping stone to get me into the next place. So I kept on working for better chefs, more credible chefs, recognizable chefs, and then I'd apply for these amazing jobs with, the Michael Jordan of the culinary world. Yeah. They're like, oh, you work there? Like, come with us,
Yeah.
So it gets easy, to answer your question, it gets easy once you're at the top of the pyramid to kind of like get inside the door to some of these places. So I started that really early in my career, and I always had like, I want to say a free ticket because I worked my dick off, but it was always like the resume kind of always got you like the first look. Right. And then you kind of decide like, okay, do I want to go here? I moved to Spain. I worked at a couple restaurants in Spain, and then I came back, and then I worked in Denmark and Japan and Australia and Macau, China, all over New York.
Like 18, 20 years old. How old are you?
Yeah,
doing
so
this
I started, I was 18. I was probably 24, I think, is when I moved to Spain in 2003. And then once I got the travel bug, it was like,
it's over with.
It's it. And then it was Europe. Then it was Europe. It was just Europe at first. It was like, then once you go to Europe for the first time and realize how easy it is. Mm-hmm. And then you're like, oh, in 45 minutes I could just fly to Paris, or I could take a 3-hour train to like another country. And then once you realize, like, you figure out the money situation, you're like, oh, this is safe. Like, okay, this is great. It's overwhelming, especially for a 24-year-old that's really never been
And all this was like before Instagram.
Before the internet. Like, I was faxing. This is how fucking old I am. I was faxing
I was trying to navigate without calling you old. But
faxing my resume to these guys, and they were faxing things back. That's how I got these jobs.
So, like, how do you even... how do you even go about researching the best restaurants in the world when there's no internet?
There was an internet, and everybody had a website, but it was cookbooks.
Yeah.
It was cookbooks, magazines, and articles written. And there was a Food and Wine magazine did this huge, like, many articles, many magazines about what was going on in Spain at the time. Like, Spain had this, like, revolution happening in, like, the late 1900s.
Yeah.
Yeah. The late 1900s into the 2000s. And Spain was like where it's at. If you wanted to learn anything, you were going to go to Spain. And I would just open these books and read about these guys, be like, this guy aligns with what I want. And I found this guy in Madrid who had a 2-star Michelin restaurant, Sergio Roll, and he spoke English. And he's like, we got a place for you to stay. You can come work with us. You can stay as long as you want. It's like a paid internship, but it's like a master's degree, you know?
Yeah.
So I saved up a little bit of money. I think I had like $3,000. I packed a bag and I moved to Spain not knowing the language, never being out of the country. Passport still wet from being freshly printed.
Yeah.
And I just showed up to the restaurant and they're like, oh, fuck, you're here, you know? And that's how it was, yeah. It takes a set of brass balls and a lot of like...
Were you afraid? Or
I was,
you gotta be terrified.
Or was it like,
it was
going?
Terrifying.
Okay.
But it was like blind, almost dumb luck, ignorance. Like blind ignorance that was leading me. Like, I fucking moved to Spain. Like, no problem. Like, whatever,
that's
man.
what you do when you're young. You don't even think about it.
You don't
like,
think
I can go, let's just
man.
do it, man.
I think... I don't know if I was growing up right now with the internet. I don't know if I would have been like so blindly just like moving to Spain. So when I landed in Madrid, and you go out of the country, you have to fill out a paperwork that says, I'm here, this is where I'm staying, blah blah blah. And I lied. I'm like, oh, I'm here for 2 weeks, because I was staying a year, And I go through customs to get my bag, and I got my bag, and I have to hand the paperwork in, and then there's the sliding doors, like, and that's like, Spain is like 5 feet away. And I sat down on this bench for about 45 minutes, and I was like panicking, sweating. I'm like, what the fuck did you just do? You're stuck.
Yeah.
You can't go back because you can't, there's nowhere to go back to. You can't walk back and be like, yeah, I want to go home. And you got to go forward, but it's like, every time the door opened, it was just like chaos in the airport and like people speaking Spanish, and everything was in Spanish. The announcements were in Spanish. The guy stamping my passport was in Spanish, and I was just like,
hard, man.
"Oh shit, man!" All I had was written down on a Post-it note was the address of the restaurant that I was just going to hand the cab driver. That's it. And it took me about 45 minutes, and I still remember this vividly. I just I don't remember leaving the airport and going to the restaurant. It's like I blacked out. I just remember day one starting work. Like I remember checking into the hotel after I met the guys and stuff. But somehow I got off the bench, got to a cab, handed it, no problem, paid, went to the restaurant, met the guys. They took me to where I was staying, and then the hotel, and that's what I remember. I remember like coming to almost, when I think about it, like I remember sitting there, and I remember the hotel. I don't remember anything else.
But you go through that though, right? When you, I mean, that's a lot
like
to
my
take
heart rate
in.
just got up.
But when he's telling this story, I can see that it's vivid.
Yeah.
Like even right now, I feel like you just went back to that bench as you was talking. You know what I mean? So I felt that.
I've never been knocked out, but I've heard a lot of people tell stories of being knocked out, especially UFC. They're like, I remember walking in, and then the next thing I remember is like being at the locker room and the fight's over. And people are like, well, did the fight start? They're like, yeah, you got knocked the fuck out, man. It's almost like that. It's like I don't remember. I remember sitting on the bench, and then I just remember being at the hotel. So I could have been abducted by aliens. I have no idea.
That's a crazy story.
Yeah, Spanish aliens.
So did you start like day one when you did that? Like when did you start actually like going to the? Was it the next day?
Yeah, I took 2 days off because the jet lag was weird. I showed up on a Friday afternoon, and then they're closed on Saturday, Sunday. So I started work on Monday.
Restaurant closed on Saturday, Sunday?
Yeah, fine dining restaurants in Europe are closed on Saturdays and Sundays. That's it.
So we're
doing things backwards.
America doesn't.
It's always backwards.
We never figured it out, man. Yeah. We never figured it out. And like the siesta is like the greatest thing in Spain. Like you work, and then around like 12:31, everybody goes to lunch. So we're cooking lunch, but then like from 3 to like 7, you're like off. 3 to like 5, you like go home. You go to the post office. You go shopping. You take a nap. You watch TV. Take a shower. Do whatever you want to do. And then you go back to the restaurant because dinner starts super late.
Siesta, not meaning just the word for nap.
It's like a break.
It's like a thing during the day.
Yeah, it's like your hour union break. Your half an hour union break during the day is like a 2.5, 3 hour break throughout the day, and the whole city shuts down. The whole city has a break. The whole country. Nobody's working except the people in the restaurant were working, but then we got our break a little bit later.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but like service, like food stuff, everything stops.
100%, everything stops. Everybody goes.
Man.
Everyone takes like a 2-hour lunch, and then they go home and sleep.
But specifically,
drinking
the
wine.
the food industries are like not
Rocking
during that time.
during that time. Yeah.
Wow. So it's like the restaurants literally are on like. It just seems like the whole country would be just on this like same schedule together, and like that's what really like is the heartbeat and keeps everybody like going. Wow.
It's like a mandatory happy hour, I feel like.
Yeah.
Basically, yeah. You have a small glass. You're not getting drunk. You have a glass of wine.
Right,
you have a beer.
But everybody
take a
drinks
nap.
wine over there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
and then you
yo.
go back to work, and if you're working in an office, you're back to work for like 2 hours. There's basically nothing is getting done. You're like, whatever. You push some papers around.
Yeah.
In the restaurant, we would do the lunch service.
Yeah.
And then like tasting menu, lunch service, super fine dining, take our break, and then come back and do the dinner service, and then work till like midnight or 1, and then go get a couple beers, and then start work at like 10:30 in the afternoon.
God, I feel like in America, especially with like the entrepreneurs, like we were talking about earlier, it's like we like celebrate this grind culture that I don't think we could ever get to what you're talking about.
But you know what though? You know why? It's because our mindset, and then a lot of people haven't gone outside of America.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, even just to work, right? I travel, so I go outside, but still just to say, you know what? I'm going to take a month, just work and indulge in the culture and see. I think that's why, because I feel like we hurt ourselves with the grind culture, right?
Yeah.
Because we don't realize the long-lasting effects of the grind culture. Because you end up getting caught up in the hamster wheel at some point. So if we do, like you want to expand, you're doing great things, right? You open up multiple restaurants at this point. You can't see that vision if you just constantly, and that's something I had to learn too.
Yeah.
I'm still learning, actually, to be honest with you. But,
Yeah, same.
You just got to, if you don't take a step back, how can you ever see the vision going forward?
Well, I have a theory on traveling, and I think like the best thing you can do in your 20s is go see the world. And there's a difference between traveling and there's a difference between going on vacation. And you can travel while you're on vacation and you can vacation while you travel, but they're different. To me, traveling doesn't have to be overseas either. It doesn't have to be this grand thing where I'm going to another country. It could be like you get on a plane and you fly to Texas and you go to some, you're taking yourself out of your comfort zone. You're turning one side of your brain off and you're turning the fight or flight side on.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be totally aware of your surroundings. You have to understand how the money works. You check into a hotel. You don't know the lay of the land. You want to explore and see things in a different light, experience people's lives differently, experience what this country, region has to offer. Okay. You're experiencing completely different things, and that side of your brain is working overtime. So when you get back, it takes you a couple days to download that information, then you're like, oh, wow, like I have a different outlook on life now. Vacation is, to me, when you go to an all-inclusive resort, you check in somewhere, you're laying on a beach, you turn your phone off, you're not working at all. People are like catering to you. You go to bed when the sun goes down, you wake up when the sun comes up. You're probably eating healthy. You're doing exercising. You're hanging out by the pool. You're relaxing. You're taking naps all day. You're getting a lot of vitamin D and sunlight. And that to me is like recharging the batteries. That's vacation. Now you can go to Tulum and you can recharge the batteries. Then you can go to the city and like get tacos and have to speak Spanish and figure out what's going on. So you could travel while you're on vacation. You can vacation while you're on travel. But I think that they're two separate things. And when you travel to another country and you see poverty in Thailand, you see poverty in Vietnam, and you see how happy these people are just being alive and existing, and you come back and you're like, you know what, man, maybe my problems aren't so fucking bad.
Man, I'm gonna tell you,
maybe my one-bedroom apartment that's actually really nice isn't so bad, because I could be on the street with my family and a newborn baby peddling for money or selling trinkets, you know, and you're just like, that person is way happier in their life than I am living with all these things that we get handed to us, or the Americas is kind of like, the country's too big for us to have kind of like an outlook of. In Germany, you drive an hour and you're in another country experiencing something completely different. You have all these things that are just kind of like bound together for you to experience another country and stuff. And here it's just like, you drive an hour, you're still in Illinois. You drive 3 hours, you're still in Illinois.
Yeah.
You know, it's like we don't have that outlook that the rest of the world does.
With the way you travel now, is it difficult to turn your brain off to actually, in your words, vacation?
No, because I'm a professional at it. I've traveled the world like twice over. I know what I'm going for and how to get it and what to do. And I'm specifically going to vacation, or like I'm really, really due for a vacation. Like I'm overdue. I could feel it. The batteries are drained. And I've already traveled a couple times this year, and I've gone on food trips, and I've, flew to New York to eat at 3 restaurants and come back. Like I've done those kind of trips, and now I need like an all-inclusive spa,
Actual
yoga, vacation like that's done.
As someone who has kind of wheeled myself up in that grind culture that wants to be able to be proud of like how hard I'm working at my business and things like that, when I go to vacation, I still go through that like 1 or 2 days of like having to try to turn the work off or beating myself up because I'm just laying on the couch all day.
Yeah, you want to talk grind culture? Impress me with how many days off you've taken. Impress me with how many times you don't have to go to your business and your employees run it. Impress me with what a great manager you are, that you don't have to micromanage your employees. To me, that's the grind. That's the grind, man. You know what?
Because it's bigger than you.
I take 3 days off a week, and my staff runs the restaurant the same exact way that I would run it. And the reviews are almost better sometimes when I'm not there. That's the grind.
That's the goal, though.
Yeah, this TikTok. The grind to me is taking more days off. Passive income, taking more days, not having to be there all the time and having the place run while I can go work on other things.
I think
that's the goal.
That's the grind.
Because I feel like you've grinded to build something bigger than you.
Empowering the people around me to make the decisions so that the business can run, so I don't have to fucking be there 24/7. There's this guy. This TikTok is like, I don't know, some idiot. I have 2 days, and I'm sure I've had 2 days. My day starts at 6 in the morning and goes to 12, and that's day 1, and then day 2 is 1 in the afternoon to 6. So by then time, I work 6 days a week, so that's 12 days a week, and it's just like, what the fuck are you talking about, man?
That math doesn't math.
It doesn't math, man.
No, I'm not getting it.
And I'm like, dude, we really like. What does entrepreneur mean? What does that even mean anymore, man? What does the grind mean? What does capitalism mean? Like, I think we've really lost the sense of like what our purpose here is on Earth, what we're supposed to be doing. Like, the purpose for me to have a business is to empower the people around me and rise them up so they can have their own businesses, or they can help me grow my business and they can become part of the business. That's what me and my brother Matthew, we're going to die on this hill of making sure that everybody who works for us is making enough money to support themselves, to save money for a rainy day, and also invest in their future of what they want to do, whether it's staying in the restaurant industry or whether it's finishing college or whether it's growing the company with us, so we can invest them in the company and grow a bigger company and have all these amazing people around us. But that's what I want to do.
Man,
I'd rather make less money and have more time off, more freedom, than make an extra $50K a year and be working to my fingers to the bone, and then when I hit 70, have dementia because I'm not getting enough sleep.
Yeah.
Fuck that, man.
Man, that was a lot right there.
I feel like we could end this, and that would be a show.
Wow.
Right.
But we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back because I've got some more questions.
Here in Nashville for the 7th Country Music Marathon and Half Marathon. I think it says a lot about the city of Nashville, what it has to offer.
That's
what is success? Success
like,
is different to fucking everybody. But in
go.
America, success is entrepreneur, billionaire, you know, a cologne line, a clothing line, a rap song. Like, what the fuck is that, man?
But
success to me is taking Sunday off and relaxing while my business runs. That's micro success.
Yeah.
The larger success is we have people that we can empower to run the business. The bigger success of that is we're going to open another restaurant. The bigger success of that is I'm working my way in my late 40s into some sort of retirement where I can take a month off and I can go to Bali and I can just chill out for a month and then come back.
That's it, though.
Yeah.
So me in my early 40s, right? So I'm thinking like, all right, you know, I've been doing this thing for over, I guess on my own, over 10 years now. Brick and mortar, you know what I mean? Now, no brick and mortar, but coaching and adding the training. So I'm just, when you're talking, I'm just kind of envisioning myself like, all right, what does that look like for me? You know what I mean? Like, what does that look like in my world? I hear it from yours, and it's like, that's great. But it's like, man, how can I do that? How can I apply that to
and
myself?
It's different for you, but if you didn't struggle, and you didn't, to me, the most successes that I've ever had were in the failures. Mm-hmm. When you bounce back from the failure and you learn and you reorganize, that's the success. The success is not, I've done it, I'm on top of the world, bank account's big, I got, you know, this, that's not the success is in the low point of how are you going to bounce back from failure? How are you going to learn? And then how are you going to reorganize everything so that you could get back on the track? To me, without the failures and the side steps and the downfalls and the missteps, there's no fucking way that I would be here. And I've had a lot of them. A lot of reflection of like, man, this isn't going the way. Here's a great example.
Okay.
2012, I was working this restaurant group. I did all these things leading up in my 20s, grinded for 10, working for the best chefs in the world to learn all these amazing things that I know how to do. And I wasn't utilizing any of those talents working with this restaurant group, of having my business partners tell me, don't buy tomatoes from the local farm, buy them from wherever, do the cheapest things possible, and it was sucking the soul out of me. So I said, I need to fucking change. I don't want to feel like this anymore. And I saved up as much money as I could in 6 months. And I went in and I quit life for 2 years. And I moved to Europe, hooked up with some friends, worked at all these restaurants for free just to get my mojo back. I didn't want to cook anymore. And I just started like finding the best chefs. I just went back to what I did when I was 20. I found the best chefs to work for. I got in the kitchen. I was a grunt worker again, peeling walnuts. Nobody knew who I was, you know, and I slowly just started working my way back into like this love of what I do. And I did that for 2 years.
So one of the questions I've been wanting to ask, and I feel like this is the perfect time now, is like when you're struggling or dealing with something now with the business you have now, is there a place in all of your travels, the restaurants you've worked with, like that you go back to as vividly as you went back to that bench at Customs? Like, is there a place you go back to and think about, and that's what like helps you navigate your next steps now?
The fear of failure. And not so much failure as the business is going to close or I'm going to lose the investors' money. Like, that's hanging. The fear of failure of I'm going to let my employees down. I'm going to let my brother down. I have to keep this going because we have, 20 employees that count on us, that are invested with us. We have investors that put money in, that I got to get that money back to them. And I have my brother who I convinced to come and do this with me and said everything's going to be all right. That's what gets me out of bed in the morning.
Yeah. It would be,
and I wouldn't say failure. I'd say just the fear of letting those people down.
Yeah.
It's not, when I stopped cooking for awards and I started cooking for myself and I started cooking for the people coming in and figuring out what they want, that's when the game changed. When I really stopped, when I put my ego in check and I decided to start cooking delicious fucking food. The rule that we have at the restaurant is it's got to be delicious or it's not going on the menu. And like the things that we come up with is sometimes it's very fucking simple. I'm like, this is way too simple. And people are like, this is the best dish I've ever had. And I'm like, okay, fine. The people have spoken.
Yeah.
You take your ego out of life and this whole world opens up to all these amazing things that you can do because you're not driven by, awards and feeling vindicated, or feeling recognized. Like, recognize yourself, man. Said, look how far you've come. Look how far that you've come. You, college football player, now you have your own business. You're like in the 1% of people that own a business. You're in, like, everybody's sitting behind a computer right now, getting up, doing the daily grind, sitting in a fucking car, thinking one day I want to do this, one day I want to do that. They're thinking one day I want to own my own gym. One day I want to own a restaurant. You're fucking doing it, man. So take a step back, be proud of what you've done, understand what you've done, and go forward with that.
I think it would be a crime to go through this much and not talk about Matthew.
Legend.
How long has he been like right-hand man right beside you, y'all together, and how pivotal is that for you living the life and still being in the restaurant life, like navigating that together?
Yeah, like Matthew's my brother. He's 7 years younger than me. I kind of like guided him into the restaurant industry, but he was destined to do it. He went to college, got a journalism major in Chicago in 2008. He was working at, I don't know, he was doing something, some office job. But he was really into beer. And this was before beer became a fucking thing, before microbrews. Like, and he was like finding all these little, like, he was making beer at the house. Every time I would come home, I was, living way. Every time I come home for like Thanksgiving, he's like, you got to try this pumpkin ale. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Pumpkin ale? That sounds gross. And he was like,
it's everywhere.
into it. He was
it's
into
everywhere,
it.
yeah.
So this restaurant in Chicago opened up called Publican, and they had like 400 beers on tap. It was like a first gastropub created by this amazing chef, Paul Kahan. It was like a real legit, and they had all, and I'm like, hey, Matthew, you got to come to this restaurant with me. And he knew all the beers on the list. He knew the producers. He knew how they were made. And he's geeking out with like the owner, and he's geeking out with like the sommelier of all these beers and this and that. 2 days later, he calls me and says, hey, what do I got to do to get in the restaurant industry? And I was like, go at this place and work for free for a month, 1 day a week, and see if you like it. And he fucking crushed it. And he worked his way from working for free, changing the kegs, to eventually becoming a barback, to eventually becoming a bartender, to eventually becoming a server, to eventually becoming the manager there. And then he went to Denver and he worked for somebody that I worked with at the French Laundry, a master sommelier, Bobby Stuckey. He worked at Bobby's restaurant and he learned all about wine. And that's when I called him and said, hey, you have to come run the Capert with me. And that's where we realized how much fun that we're like, holy shit.
Because
the personalities.
The personalities, the front of house, back of house. Yeah. I'm not just saying this because you're on the couch with me. We have microphones and cameras. Of all of the catbird seats I've been to, that was my favorite.
Yeah, it's fun. We're two morons that are just really into what we're doing, and we just want to share all of this knowledge that we have with people. And there's no way that Iggy's would be what it is without Matthew. I say that all the time. I say it to the staff. He has really put a fingerprint on that restaurant, and he is the face and the leader of the restaurant. And I sit back and I let him run it because he's in tune with the staff. He does the staff meetings. He does the tasting notes with them. He manages everything that happens in the front, and I kind of I handle a lot of the bigger things on the back end, dealing with the investors, the P&Ls. He does a lot of that too, but he is the day-to-day operator of the restaurant, and he fucking crushes it. If he wasn't involved, I would probably have to hire 3 people to do the job that he does, and they still wouldn't be able to do the job as good as he does it. Like, he is the secret weapon of this restaurant.
Man, but to have that is like...
Yeah.
And he's my brother.
That's what I'm saying.
And he's my brother. So when I leave that restaurant, I know he's not fucking stealing. Right. I know he's not, the confidence of leaving a place and knowing that my brother, who's also my best friend, has got it, no problem. And then, the second in command to that, we also trust Kayla and Rachel and David and Wes and Landon. We both can leave the restaurant knowing that all those people I just mentioned have our back, and they're not stealing, they're not drinking, they're not letting the staff do whatever. They're making sure that when we come back, it's exactly the same way. That's the culture that we've built.
How long did it take to get like that, though? I feel like everybody wants that, right? Yeah. They say they want that, or I hired this person.
To find people to care about your business.
At least as much as you do. At least half as much as you do.
But I feel like you can't expect them to care as much as you do if the owner of all of that. But, empowering them.
You have to empower them. You have to make them feel like they're a part of it. It started day one from when we brought them on. We empowered them. We respected them. We pay them a living wage. The minute that you disrespect your employees, that's the minute they see the fractures and the cracks. We have never disrespected the employees. In the very, very beginning, I might have flying off the handle, this and that needs to get done, but we overcame that. It's just, and I learned my place and I learned my position. But the minute you start disrespecting the employees, they start losing respect for you, and then they come in with this bucket attitude, and then they get in their head, and it festers, and it builds, and negativity builds negativity, and we do not allow negativity to walk in the door. The pre-shifts are uplifting. They're happy. Someone needs a day off, they get it. Someone needs help, they get it. They have the wherewithal to come to us and be like, listen, I'm having a really fucking hard day, and I'm here, but I got your back. What do you need? And we're overly accommodating. We help them out. Everybody has bad. I go to them and say, I'm struggling today, guys. You got to fucking help me out. And the way that they fucking react and the way that they step up, that's what we do in the restaurant. And that's just the culture that we have.
I feel like the underlying theme to a lot of this, of like your definition of success, is stress management. Like, of course, and most of us, the only experience with like ultra fine dining is like the show The Bear, or something like that. Yeah. But it's like, I mean, you've worked with what you called like the Michael Jordans of the culinary industry.
The dream team of the industry, man. Yeah.
And so like thinking about them like being over your shoulder while you got to like wipe this dish clean and all of that, I would assume in the fine dining world, when it's about that presentation, it can be very high stress.
Very ego-driven,
very high stress. But that seems to be the opposite of how you're navigating things
right
now.
Because there's amazing things that come out of that world. And there's a lot of bullshit, a lot of like the reason we're in this problem with the industry is because of those places also. Yeah. So if you have the know-how to sift through all that and be like, okay, this is really good. I'm going to take this. I don't need this. I don't like the way they do this. I think the bottom line is, when it comes down to it, me and Matthew are good people. And that's where it starts. We're good people and want the best for the people around us. We're not greedy. We're not egotistical. We know our strengths and we know our weaknesses, and I'm very satisfied with the person who I am. I'm very comfortable with the person who I am. All my successes and all my flaws, I understand them. I know them. I'm constantly working on them, but I'm comfortable with the chef that I am right now.
Yeah.
And if that means making a Taleggio cheese pasta that people are like, this is fucking amazing, then that's it. Is it the most groundbreaking thing? Then am I going to win awards for it? Absolutely not. Are people coming in and ordering it and leaving and saying it was great? That's all that fucking matters. That people come back and they tell their friends.
Normally, part of the benefit of working for someone else is that you don't have all the stress of the overhead and things like that. But it seemed very like inspiring of more of like where your mindset has gotten to, that it seems like, in at least, I don't know if this is normal in culinary or specific to Chef Ryan Poli, but it seems that like the stress came from in the restaurants working for someone else. And now that you have your own place, now it's like taking days off and like using that the days off as the success meter.
Right.
So that almost seems kind of backwards from like other industries.
Well, it took me working for people as long as I did to realize I didn't want to work for people anymore.
I was about to say that, like, man, probably because you had to go through that whole, I call it the gauntlet, but just go through that whole thing.
Word. Yes.
You do realize, like, you know what? I don't think I can do this. I want to do something different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then when I do get it, this is how, because like you said, I take this and I don't like that. I do this. And then I create this culture that I feel like is top tier.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
This particular moment, we were ready to open IGGY's. We're confident in our skills. We're confident in our business ventures. We're confident in borrowing money. We were confident in the space that we found. It was the right time, right place. 2 years earlier, probably not. 2 years later, I don't know. But the confidence of that going into this, I think, is where we're finding our success.
And when did y'all open?
July 2023.
So kind of after pandemic type.
Yeah, well after that. Yeah, I started working on this. It's funny. I started working on this July 2020 is when I started working on this concept.
Mm-hmm. How much of the confidence that you had to take on this concept came from what you did to adapt like during COVID with the dinners and things like that?
Yeah, it was to get back to working for other people. Was
Yeah.
It got to the point where we're just like, we had suggestions, those suggestions were denied, and then a month later, those suggestions were brought up by the people that own the restaurant saying we should do this, and we're just like, wait a minute. And then it got to the point where we're managing other people's money and spending here or there, and then realizing like how much waste is happening.
Yeah.
And we're like, wait, dude, we could fucking do this.
Yeah.
We could do this a lot fucking better. And not saying like we're better, but just like this particular situation, like they're wasting a lot of fucking money. And we have the know-how to do, and it just got to that point of like, why are we making all these people all this fucking money, man? Let's do this ourselves.
Yeah. Because as someone who's been to Catbird Seat multiple times, it does seem like, I wouldn't say it's like super high stress, like tensions in the air, but the people, you can see them preparing, like cooking right there. Like, it is not laid back.
Well, you go to Waffle House in a busy fucking Saturday
they're
night at midnight and watch that guy stressing out, man.
Yeah,
you know?
he's stressing. Like, so like people watching you do that, right? But then like coming into your house for those COVID dinners.
I think that's really where
it was like so much fun. You looked like you were having fun.
I think doing the dinners at my house during COVID was I kind of turned my house into like an underground dinner party where I would have like Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Yeah. It would have to be a group. You all had to know each other. It could be minimum or 6 is the minimum and 10 was the maximum. And it was just me. And it was like I was running a restaurant by myself. It was a 7-day-a-week job. Like on Sunday, I would deep clean the whole kitchen, polish the silverware, clean the fridge, like deep clean the fridge. Like I would spend all day Sunday cleaning and I would relax Sunday night. And then Monday, I would pull everything out of the fridge and I would write the menu for the rest of the week. Then Tuesday, I did the shopping. And then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I did all the prep and everything. It was fucking amazing. But I think those dinners is really where I got comfortable cooking delicious food. Like, first of all, nobody was going out. Nothing was open. People were just happy to be out. And I would see people come in and be like, I haven't seen these people in 6 months. And thank you so much for doing this. And sometimes I had to kick people out. I'd be like, hey, guys, you know.
We were definitely there pretty late.
They were just having like a good time. And I wanted to let them have that moment as long as I could. And I would clean. And when the whole house was clean and I was all ready to, when I was ready to go to bed, when the edible was kicking in, I'd be like, hey, guys, hey, you got to go. And they were like, oh, but that's the time where...
The first time I didn't realize it was your house. So we definitely overstayed our welcome.
But it was like, that's where I learned to cook delicious food. Like, it didn't fucking matter what I was making. People were just happy to be there. Yeah. So I would like, sometimes I'd make like really fine dining little things. And sometimes I'd make a hummus plate. And people were like, this is great. And I'm like, oh, people just like camaraderie. They want to go out and they want to have delicious food, and that's all they want. I was like, okay, let's stop being so chefy about this. Let's stop trying to blow people's minds with like sea urchin and this and all these crazy combinations, and let's blow people's minds with like the experience of coming to my house, having wine together, seeing friends, conversation, and having the food be a part of that and not the main focus. And that's where I was like, okay, this is the hospitality industry. This is the industry that I'm in. It's the hospitality industry. What does that mean? Fucking be hospitable in every aspect. Greet them when you sit. Me and Matthew, we always talk about, I want Iggy's to feel like we're going to Mom's house for Thanksgiving. She greets you at the door. She takes her jacket. She makes you a drink. She finds your favorite spot on the couch. She tells everybody stop picking on you. She lets you know when dinner's ready. You know, you're helping her clean up. She doesn't want you to help clean up. You leave and you're just like, oh man, it's so great seeing everybody.
I can't wait to do this again.
It's like that's the hospitality industry. And if people are leaving the way that we feel leaving Mom's house after Thanksgiving, then that's a fucking win.
Wow.
Gotta go to Iggy's.
Yeah.
Gotta check it out.
I mean, I don't know. There's not a better place to go get pasta.
Yeah. Got to.
Yeah.
I love pasta too, so yeah.
Right on.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So talking about Iggy's, kind of wrapping this up, like what are y'all doing right now? What's some things coming down the pipeline? Kind of plug in Iggy's a little bit.
Yeah, well, we got amazing things, man. We're finishing out this year. We do this thing on Sunday called No Decision Sunday, where you could sit at the chef's counter. So Iggy's is a 70-seat restaurant in the Wedgwood, Houston neighborhood of Nashville. The kitchen is open, and we have about 12 seats, a bar around the kitchen. where you could see everybody working, very interactive with the cooks. And then we got about 50 seats in the dining room. Fun, energetic restaurant. The cuisine is Italian influenced, based around fresh pasta. That's all we have is pasta. So there's no entrees per se.
Yeah.
Your entree is you're going to order a bunch of pastas.
Yeah.
And the menu's designed for you to order a whole bunch of food, to taste a lot of different things, to say you like that, you didn't like this too much. But that's what we celebrate. We celebrate making fresh pasta. On Sundays, we do this thing called No Decision Sunday, where we pick the menu for you. We pick the wines for you. You come down, you sit down. We feed you for, I don't know if the price off the top of my head. It's $100 a person, or 100. I think it's $125 for a couple. It's like $65 a person.
Wow.
And that's it. You buy a ticket ahead of time. It sells out immediately, and we just stuff you full of food and send you on your way. We're looking towards mid-2025 to do some sort of happy hour on the patio. Constantly always changing the menu. We have these guest chef dinners that we do once every quarter, where we fly friends in, do really cool shit with them. A fun way to, on a Wednesday. With this Wednesday, we have one coming up with Brad Daniels from Philadelphia, a great Italian chef. And that's about it. That's what's happening. So we're excited about,
That's awesome.
It's a hell of a blueprint, man.
Yeah.
I mean, it is truly some of the best food, the best experience. As someone who definitely enjoys going out, it's a great time. If you haven't been to IGGY's, go to IGGY's. But this is kind of what we always end it with. But so what's next for the Poli brothers? You kind of established this. You got it how you wanted it. You got your days off. What's next?
Yeah. Keep refining it until the point we can walk away from it and it can run itself. And then probably go do something else.
Yeah.
Maybe another restaurant.
Okay.
Maybe not. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
There's always something. The passion is there, though.
Yeah.
So when the fire's still in you, it's like,
It's there, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can tell.
Do you think you could fully just walk away retired and just not do anything?
I don't think I'm ever going to retire. I just don't think I don't know. My mom told me one time, I was talking about something. I'm like, yeah, I just want to lay on the beach. She's like, you'd be bored after a week.
Yeah.
And
I
stuck
feel
with
like I'm
me.
like
and
that.
I'm like, you know what?
same.
Yeah, you're
Yeah, I
probably
feel
right.
like
Same.
You're probably
I enjoy
right.
it.
After a week, you're
Yeah.
like, this is great. And then it'd be like, I got to do something else, man.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. So.
Wow.
I'm energized.
That was a lot.
Yeah,
that was a lot.
Yeah,
No, but
I didn't expect it to go that way, but
I didn't
here
either.
we are.
But I
Yeah,
love that.
He made me think, though, right? So, like
Yeah.
I said, the stuff you're saying, it's for all of us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, each one of us, we all do our thing, but what you're saying, it speaks volumes to everybody. So, who's especially in our shoes, in our position, trying to navigate, get to where you are, right? Do your stuff, and still keep going with the vision and the fire and the passion. Like, you brought all that today, man. So, I
mean,
appreciate you, man.
as a business owner, you have to define what success means to you, and not what success means to some podcaster or someone on the news or some politician or even what your neighbor thinks. Success is an individual, private thing that you share with yourself. You set your own goals, you hit your own milestones, you learn from the mistakes, you take constructive criticism well, and that's success. Success to my older brother is having 3 kids, living in the suburbs, doing his job, and spending time with his kids. To me, it sounds fucking horrible. Who am I to judge someone else's success?
Right.
Success to a person down the street is being a billionaire, flying on private jets, having the Rolex watch and chains and all that. That's success to them. To me, it sounds fucking miserable. And I have my own version of success that I keep in my heart, that I work on every day, that I put a little bit time in here, constant struggle, constant battle, constantly trying to make things better for the people around me. That's a success.
Yeah, it is, man.
And you know what?
and I can't
Somebody
argue
might
with
hear that and say, that sounds fucking horrible.
Yeah.
Which is fine.
But that's your definition in
That's
your
it,
heart.
man.
And
You're not going to tell me any different. You know?
can't argue with it. And I
Yeah.
wouldn't want to, even if I disagreed.
Nah, not at all.
Yeah.
Not
Ryan,
at all,
thanks
man.
for coming on.
Yeah, thanks
spending
for having me.
spending your time here.
Yeah.
Definitely appreciate the knowledge you just dropped down on us.
A lot of gems, man. Ryan, I appreciate you, man. And I will be at Iggy's. I will come to
100%.
Iggy's,
Let me
take
know.
the wife.
You
Yeah.
get my information from
Yeah, for
Blake
sure,
and
for
let
sure.
me know. Absolutely.
Hey, so we appreciate Chef Ryan being on. I know you like this one because I did. So make sure I love this one, right? So make sure you hit the link, subscribe, and be on the lookout for the next episode. Until then, peace.
Peace.
For the love of Nashville, tune into the next one.